In addition to the writing assignment, you'll want to go out and do the discussion board for this week. And there's a case study as well as a video. After you've read and watched that, you want to answer these two questions. In today's global business environment, does the physical location of a business matter? Here we are in an online world doing distance learning, but in the context of a business, does the physical location matter? I've worked with organizations in the past in which, for a long period of time, they allowed employees to telecommute and then they made decisions to bring everybody in house. So, what is the thinking behind that? Is it something that is there validity to that thinking that we all need to be in the house or not? And then, secondly, do you agree or disagree that businesses can solve social problems? This one's definitely pertinent to the video and that you'll watch, and just want to get your input on that. I had an optional part of the discussion last week that related to our view as Christians on technology, and we talked about instrumentalism and determinism and the spectrum of what lies between those. We talked about a biblical view potentially being here in the middle, not on either extreme. I want to expand on that a little bit more this week and talk about that and get your input. As again, this is optional. You're not required in any way to add the Christian component to this, but it's certainly important to me that you think about this. So I'm going to ask that you guys think about adding even just a few sentences on your thoughts. Again, just to review, the definition we came up with for technology last week was the human activity of using tools to transform God's creation for practical purposes. John Dyer, in his book, talks about technology in terms of being a tool. So that means that even something as simple as a shovel can be a tool and rather can be technology. We tend to think of technology as things that are the latest and greatest, but in reality, anything that allows us to transform God's creation into practical purposes can be considered a tool. So if we use our shovel example and you were to go out and shovel for a week, you would have transformed both the creation itself and yourself. The tool itself would have had an impact on you. You would have muscles in places you didn't have before and maybe a little more sore. The same is true for technology, believe it or not, the technology that we think of today. Um, it has the ability to shape our worldview. And so as Christians, we need to be thinking about examining technology carefully and being purposeful in letting our faith shape our worldview instead of letting technology shape it. Let me give you an example. Um, Incredible book for you to read if you have the time. The Shallows, What the Internet is Doing to Our Brains by Nicholas Carr. It's a secular book, but he points in this book to um, the research that's out there that is showing our brains are being physiologically altered right now based on our activity on the internet and the constant stream of information. We are growing less and less able to focus, is his basic argument. Let me read you a quote from his book. When we go online, we enter an environment that promotes cursory reading, hurried and distracted thinking, and superficial learning. It's possible to think deeply while surfing the net, just as it's possible to think shallowly while reading a book. But that's not the type of thinking the technology encourages and rewards. Our use of the internet involves many paradoxes, but the one that promises to have the greatest long term influence over how we think is this one. The net seizes our attention only to scatter it. So if we know that the internet has the ability to impede our ability to focus, then certainly we have to think about what that does or what role that plays on us as Christians. We need to be more purposeful in making sure that we take the time to step away from the internet and spend time with God one on one alone, away from the cell phone, away from the internet. Uh, that is something that, and then just to read, to be able to sit and read for more than a few minutes um, and just be able to focus. Two more quick quotes. One from John Dyer's book. He says, "We use our idols, especially technological ones, as a means of distraction. When we find something that offers us temporary relief from the curse of sin, instead of allowing its shortcomings to make us long for our Savior, we allow the technology to distract us from our obvious need of a Savior." Blaise Pascal, the theologian, said this: "When I have occasionally set myself to consider the different distractions of men, I have discovered that all of unhappiness of men arises from one single fact, that they cannot stay quietly in their own character." I'd like for you to think about those quotes, but what I'm really wanting you to do for the optional discussion this week, after you post your discussion replies, if you want to include an optional reply, I'd like you to answer this question. Does the technology you use shape your relationship with God, good or bad? So think about the technology you use on a regular basis and talk about if you see yourself being impacted by it in a good or bad way, and how does that play out? So to review, let me just cover the main assignments. Obviously, you want to go out there and read the textbook and the journal articles. You're just about done with watching the videos. Make sure you do the case study for this week and respond to the case study, and also the optional one on biblical integration. And then lastly, the critical assignment. Complete the second section, that should say second section of the critical assignment in regards to strengths of the organization. Once again, I'm here for you guys. I really want to be able to support you, and any questions that you have, any concerns you have, feel free to reach out to me. I'm always here at the computer, so you should get a reply right away or within 24 hours at the latest. Again, I'm just blessed to be on this journey with you, and I hope you guys have a good week. Take care.